And welcome to this official launching of the Queen Baton Relay 2014. Honorable Minister Myron Waldron, BVIOC past President Mr. Renaud O'Neill, members of the Glasgow 2014 Queen Baton Relay Organizing Committee, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, our chef de mission, Mr. Mark Chapman, good morning and welcome. As I mentioned before, today we officially starts the countdown to Glasgow 2014 Queen Baton Relay. The Queen Baton Relay is a precursor to the Commonwealth Games, which takes place every 4 years. The baton contains a message from the Queen that will be read to the athletes competing in the Games. The message would be read at the opening ceremony marking the start of the 20th Commonwealth Games to be held in Glasgow, Scotland this summer. The baton and the traveling team will arrive in the Virgin Islands from Anguilla via the Terence B. Lettsome Airport in the late afternoon of Wednesday, April 2nd, and will depart for Jamaica on Saturday, April 5th. The baton will be touring throughout the communities of Tortola and for the first time Josh Van Dyke and Budgengorda, and a series of relays planned for Thursday, August 3rd and Friday, August 4th. The BVIOC, in the capacity as the local Commonwealth Games Association, will host the Queen Baton Relay and has been working closely with key stakeholders to organize the full days of activities. The key stakeholders involved in the planning include the Office of the Governor, represented here today by Mrs. Maria Mays. Pleasure to have you. The Office of the Premier, the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sports, of course represented by none other than Mr. Waldron to my right, including in that group of, in that ministry, of course, is the Department of Culture and Youth Affairs and Sports. We also have on board the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, the H. Laverty Stout Community College, and the BVI Tourist Board. The Queen Baton Relay is unique in its way in that it seeks to unite members of the Commonwealth, the overseas territories, to showcase their country, culture, hospitality, communities, and sports. But most importantly, the people of the different countries and territories get a chance to showcase their charm and beauty. This year, there is a focus on the youth of the Commonwealth through a partnership between the Commonwealth Games Federation and UNICEF. We are working directly with our national sports federations, the schools, community and social groups to raise awareness and support in the form of volunteers and participation in the relays as they pass through various districts and communities. You can bear with me for a moment as I go through the extensive number of events that we're going to be having planned for this 2 days. It's going to be chock with activities. And as I said, the working itinerary starts with an informal welcome from around 5:30 p.m. at Trellis Bay on Wednesday, August 2nd, when the public will be invited to be part of a casual welcome for the baton and the traveling team. The full program starts the official welcome reception on Thursday, August 3rd from 9 to 10 a.m. And April, we're going far ahead, 10 a.m. at the Noah Lloyd Positive Action Movement Park, when the baton is officially handed over to the Premier and the people of the Virgin Islands. The relay would then officially start with the first baton bearer to be decided, who will run the baton through the public streets from the park, following a route through Rowtown to take in Waterfront Drive, Old Government House, Sir Albert George's Plaza, Main Street, Lower Estate, Botanic Station and ending at the A.O. Shirley Recreation Ground. That same day, we will move to the western end of the island. The baton will be driven to the Leonora Delville Primary School in Capone's Bay, where the relay will be run through Apple Bay, the Carrot Bay, down to King Garden Bay. There at King Garden Bay, we're going to introduce one of a new event or a new sport that's going to be taking part in the Commonwealth Games, the swimmers. The swimmers from the BVI swim team and the BVI Swimming Association will swim the baton to the police launch, more the short distance out in the bay, before being transported to, as I mentioned earlier, the first time that we will do a relay in Joshua Dyke. A relay supported by residents will be run in Great Harbor around 2 p.m. before the baton is transported back to Tortola via Nanny Key, where the traditional sloops will receive the baton just outside of the marina and will sail it into Nanny Key, escorted by the youth dinghy sailors. There the baton will be photographed at the BVI Spring Regatta, showcasing again a very important event in the calendar of the British Virgin Islands tourism product. That evening, as if we haven't done enough for the day, that evening the baton will be on display by His Excellency the Governor, Roy McCleary and Mrs. McCleary. On Friday, April 4th, the Premier will host a welcome ceremony in the Valley, Virgin Gorda, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., where the public on that island is also invited. The baton would then be handed over for a relay to run through the valley up to the baths. All residents of Virgin Gorda and Antigua are encouraged to participate. The baton will arrive back into Tortola at Trillis Bay at 4:30 p.m., where it will be received by cyclists who will take it across the Queen Elizabeth II Bridge and hand over to runners. The relay would then be run through Longlook, through Eastern Longlook, passing through the Stickit and Longlook, a very historical site. Of course, as you know, a history from the emancipation of slavery. It's a very important site there. A cultural presentation by traditional musicians, dancers, and performers to include Scottish reel dancing will form part of the official closing ceremony when the baton is returned to the Queen Baton Relay Traveling Team and the Commonwealth Games Federation. The evening will end with a cultural tasting under the tent with samplings of food and refreshments from the BVI and Scotland on sale. We see this event as very unique for not only for the Olympic Committee, but the territory as a whole. And we are encouraging the public to come out. Most persons hear the word relay, they figure they have to be in shape and have to run 100 in 10:6 or something like that. But this is just something that we want the whole entire British Virgin Islands to become a part of. I know the minister and the government have been preaching wellness and fitness and trying to get our community active. So this is a unique opportunity where we can, all the stakeholders that are trying to improve the overall fitness of the community can come together. And we're encouraging groups in the different communities, the wellness groups, the walk groups. Whenever the relay is passing through your district, we want you to organize, come out, and be a part. In fact, as you can see from the past relays there, that's running on the screen, there's a lot of kids there. We want to try to identify some of those young people and to get them to tell their story of how they were involved 4 years ago in the relay, and to even take a part in running this one as a baton bearer. We think it could be a unique opportunity for everyone, and it's as I said, it's sport for all, and it can be a very unique and lasting experience. It only comes around every 4 years, so you have 4 years to get to rest for the next one. So you can come out and run as hard as you can and rest for 4 years. As I mentioned, the Glasgow 2014 games will take place from July 23rd to August 3rd. But I will invite Mark Chapman, who is going to be the chef de mission, to speak as to the games and the BVI involvement this year. Mark?
Thank you, Ephraim. I'm, as Ephraim said, I'm the chef de mission for Glasgow. I'm going to be very brief because I hope you're going to want to ask questions afterwards. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a snapshot of what the chef's duties are and what I have to do to get the team ready for Glasgow in July. Already I've been to Glasgow and seen the facilities, and I've got to tell you that the city has done a fabulous job. And you know, we hear so often of venues and countries where they've overspent, and what Glasgow have done is that they've taken their existing facilities, and the facilities are all ready now, and that's fabulous for our athletes. You know, in past games we've had worries about facilities being ready and conditions, and you know, this games is going to be. It's called the Friendship Games, and it's going to be a very, very friendly. I can feel it already. A friendly games, and it's just the organising committee have got kind of like two thought patterns. One is that it's a sport-focused games. It's to be a sport-focused games, but it's also to be an athlete-focused games, and those are kind of two central themes that run through it. So you can know that our athletes are ready. You know, we have earmarked approximately 8 athletes to attend in Glasgow from 3 different sports, and we spend the next 3 months after the Baton's been here getting those athletes ready to travel to Glasgow in July. That's all I'll say for now. Thank you very much, and I'll take your questions later.
I will now invite the Minister of Sports to give endorsements.
Thank you very much, members of the very distinguished table, persons who are here representing the Governor's Office, Ms. Mays, and of course representing the Department of Youth Affairs and Sports, Mr. Paul Hewlett. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, those who are watching on television. The Queen's Baton Relay is a tradition of the Commonwealth Games that brings together 70 nations and territories, traveling 190,000 kilometers in preparation for the quadrennial Festival of Sport and Culture. The Baton has already begun its 288-day travel across the Commonwealth, a third of the world's population, and here in the Virgin Islands, we are excited to be a part of this global event. Launched by Her Majesty the Queen at Buckingham Palace in October of last year, the Baton contains a message of hope and unity for our Commonwealth states, which are comprised of many faiths, races, languages, cultures, and traditions. I believe the Baton represents the spirit of sport and culture that unites people across many boundaries. It is a spirit of resilience, one of understanding, one of triumph, that are values and traits of the people of these Virgin Islands. As a member of this Commonwealth family, we are especially honored to have been selected as one of the stops to receive the Queen's Baton ahead of the Glasgow Commonwealth Games scheduled for July 23rd to August 3rd of this year. At the Ministry, we are doing our part to ensure active participation by our schools and that our youth organizations are at the forefront. As the Baton arrives in our territory on April 2nd, a time when our schools are on Easter break, I am urging our parents and guardians to allow your children to participate in activities scheduled for that day. Details of the meeting points will be announced as we get closer to our leg of the relay. So I encourage parents to listen to the radio and look out for announcements across our local media for the Baton Routh so that your child can witness and participate in this global ceremony. The Department of Education and the Department of Youth Affairs and Sports are involved in the planning process and will play a vital role in informing our principals, teachers, athletes, youth organizations, and students of the events. All youth are encouraged to participate and be a part of what is perhaps the world's largest relay when it arrives in the Virgin Islands from April 2nd to 5th. To men and women who sit on the planning committee, as Minister with responsibility for sports, culture, and youth affairs, you have my support as we come together as one community in the Virgin Islands and as a Commonwealth territory to rally around Her Majesty's message of hope and unity, which the Baton represents. So again, I encourage our entire community to participate in the 2014 Queen's Baton Relay as the Virgin Islands participates in this unique tradition to showcase our country to the Commonwealth and to the world. Thank you. May God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We now pass the baton, as we call it, to a person who is no stranger to sports in the Virgin Islands. Sometimes he's referred to as the grandfather or the father of sports development. And I speak of none other than Mr. Reynold O'Neill, the past president of the British Virgin Islands Olympic Committee.
Thank you, Ephraim. Good day, everybody, Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, or my colleagues at the table. I was asked to give a little background on our participation at the Commonwealth Games. These games will be our 7th Commonwealth Games. Ironically, it should have been our 8th Commonwealth Games, but in 1986, when the games were held in Edinburgh, Scotland as well, there was a feeling in many of the countries of the Caribbean that because of certain circumstances, they did not want to grace the games with their presence. We got sort of caught up in the shuffle, as it were. And what was stranger is that it had to do with New Zealand's participation in a rugby tournament against South Africa, which was then banned from international sport. So that was what happened. 4 years later, ironically, the games are in New Zealand. And all of the countries that stayed away are more than happy to go there. So those were our first games. There was one athlete representing the territory at that point. It was Lyndall Hodge, who was actually the person who was our first bearer of the Queen's Baton when the relay made its first appearance here in 2006. Since then, we've taken part in 6 other games. These will be our 7th games. Our best performer was Taisha Harrigan, who was a finalist in the 100 meters in both Melbourne in 2006 and in Delhi in 2010. The Commonwealth Games is somewhat different from any other games that I've attended. I think Mark's description of the games as the friendly games is quite apt. There's a games village, and it takes different forms. But it rarely, unlike any other championships or games that I've gone to, affords people the opportunity, in fact, it's something you can hardly avoid, of meeting persons from cultures far and wide, from the islands of the Pacific to the Falklands below South America, Africa, and Great Britain's 8 countries. If most people assume that at the Commonwealth Games, there's a British team, but there's not. There's an English team, a Scottish, a Northern Irish, a Welsh, plus teams from Guernsey, Jersey, and the Isle of Man. So it's an all-embracing games. Also, a number of the countries that are non-independent do not have Olympic committees, but they have Commonwealth Games associations. So this gives athletes from countries like Montserrat and still the Turks and Caicos an opportunity to compete at a high level and sort of fly their country's flag. I think that over the years, the organizers of the Queen's Baton Relay at the local level have done an excellent job. As I said, the first was in 2006, and in 2010, it had expanded in scope quite a bit. This year seems to be even more ambitious. I would never have thought of Jos van Dijk being involved in the itinerary, but it's good to see it happen. As both Mark and Ephraim mentioned, we will be representing 3 sports at the Commonwealth Games, and I think, we can look forward to some fairly decent performances, and we know that, the country will stand behind us. We do hope that, we do hope that the participation in the relay is as extensive and as enthusiastic as it was last time. I recall I didn't actually take part in the relay the first time, but on the last occasion, I found myself running ahead of some kids from the Estlin Richer Center, I think, and beside one of our former leading junior athletes who happened to be, like, I think, about 6 months pregnant. But she had to go. So, that's the sort of enthusiasm that we would like to see happen this year again. And once more, my compliments in advance to the organizers, and I know that you'll all enjoy the Queen's Baton Relay, and hopefully you will enjoy the Commonwealth Games. Thank you.
Okay, the floor is now open for any questions from the floor.
I've got one, Mr. Penn, or maybe a couple, I don't know. How do you decide on who holds the baton? Like the first person, how do you decide who gets that honor?
Heavy question. We have a committee that sits and evaluates past persons in sports, individuals and what have you, and we try to make it a symbolic as possible. The last time we had Lyndall Chef Hodge, who was the first participant in the Commonwealth Games, as Ray just said. And this year, the emphasis is on youth. So that may play a part, but we haven't finally decided on who that person will be. But I think we will keep the team of the Commonwealth Game Federation in that we showcase the youth of the Commonwealth. So we may have a competition. It's all open. It's something that we are tinkering with, as to make it as exciting as possible to get that person.
Thank you. You mentioned a drive from, I think, Roadtown to Lynn or Adellville?
Yes.
Actually just a drive, or is that going to be like a motorcade, open-topped type procession? Because last time you did cycling all the way through the
Seacoast Bay and back. Yeah. Well, that leg is out, and so it may be because the distance is pretty long, and in the essence of time, as you can see, that day is chock with activities. We still have to go to George Van Dyke. So because we taking out the Seacoast Bay leg, the George Van Dyke leg now will take up that time. So we have to get there and have because we cannot. We want to still include the western end of the island, the eastern, all parts. We want to touch all parts of the territory. So we in the essence of time, we will move it quickly to that area.
Nothing to do with the cyclists not being able to go?
No, the cyclists, well, it's a stretch for them too, but they can come from Beef Island to East End.
Okay. And the VG relay, that's an actual relay, or will that be a drive? Or?
No, that'd be a relay. That'd be a relay with the young people and persons of that community taking part. It was an excellent relay last time, and you can see from some of the photos of the copper mine and what have you. Some of the best shots, I think, were taken, scenic shots in Virgin Gorda. It's so scenic that we want to enjoy. Yeah.
And I saw a picture there, and I've been racking my brain for how the name of the logo creature, the puppet in the suit. There was one that came with the baton last time. Is there an emblem rather than just the baton, or?
I will let Mark address that.
You'll be a small man that fits in.
Yeah, this is the mascot for Glasgow, and it was designed. It was as a result of a competition, and it was designed. It's called Clyde, based on the River Clyde, which is close by Glasgow, and it's meant to depict a Scottish flower, a particular type of Scottish flower, the thistle. And this is pretty much central to a lot of the advertising and a lot of the hoopla that's gone with the games. But in answer to the question, we've asked if there will be a suit, and it appears that there isn't at the moment. The suit's a big challenge, particularly in warm climates. The guys that did it last time just loved it, and they were clamouring. I don't know if you were one of them, Paul. They were clamouring to get into the suit.
Not in uniform.
It's a challenge in terms of cleanliness and all of that sort of stuff. So as far as we know, there won't be one, but.
You're leaving the secret just in case it's you, right?
Well, someone could make one, and that's a challenge for you.
And then just moving on to the games itself, the Olympics, you had a twin town arrangement with somewhere in Hertfordshire, Aston.
Oh yeah.
Any plans to do anything like that in Scotland?
Yeah, there is actually. We have a cultural exchange with this village in Hertfordshire, and we're continuing that. And they expressed an interest prior to the Olympics that they could repeat the same thing for the Commonwealth Games. And so the plan is, all things being equal, that we will go to that same village with the athletes over a week before, probably 10 to 12 days before the games start, and that will allow the athletes to acclimatise and to get to know each other, build up teamwork, and that's important. So that's the plan.
Okay. And the 8 athletes across how many sports are you thinking there'll be?
There's 3 sports.
3 sports. Track, sailing.
Sailing isn't.
The Scottish got lovely water and there's no sailing.
It's the sports identified at the moment are track and field, squash and swimming. It gives quite a nice balance over the whole games, having swimming and athletics, because they kind of occur at different times. So we will have involvement throughout the entire time of the games.
And the 8 athletes, would that be one of the biggest team, or?
I think it was 7 in Victoria in 1994, but then I'd have to count heads.
But that's 8.
Yeah, but that was just one sport.
Yeah. So this would be the biggest,
Overall,
broadest
yes.
delegation.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that actually, because when we went to Delhi 4 years ago, we actually just took 2 athletes, and that was a function of the time of year it was. It was at the end of the track season. Plus, Delhi maybe isn't quite such appetising venue as the United Kingdom. So it's exciting that we're able to take 8 quality athletes.
But what has happened really is that these will be the first games in a peak competitive season for a lot of sports since Victoria in '94, because you had Kuala Lumpur, you had Melbourne in February or what have you, and then you had Delhi again in the autumn.
Yeah.
So it should lead for a much higher level of competition, and
Well, you're going to have the Olympic and world champion and the women's 100 and possibly Mr. Bolt as well. But I think, that the dates played a large part in why the participation of a number of the big name athletes were not at the last 3 or 4. 2 or 3.
And I think one of the things that I think we should highlight the participation of swimming. I know the Honourable Minister had that as a drive to have swimming at the highest level. And we are continuing that now, where we have them now competing at the Commonwealth Games. Hopefully we'll have them at the CAC Games later this year. So swimming is, I think in particular the 2 female that are training in the UK, young Phillips is really beginning to take root, and I can see that as opening another opportunity for quite a number of young British Virgin Islanders or Virgin Islanders to compete at the highest level in another sport that we can train with.
There's no age bracket, is there, for swimming, but there are for some of the sports. What is the general age for Commonwealth participation?
It's established by each federation, so I mean I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you.
Run down the whole list?
No, but not by the games itself.
No.
Not by the games,
Not by
itself.
the games.
International
So
federation.
the swimming federation, we comb through the rules, and there is no age categorisation, and you'll know that because we've seen 13, 14-year-old medalists in the past. So, yeah, I mean, just on as a sporting aside, I mean, this year I think in the press conferences we've done before, I've noted that this is our busiest year ever as an Olympic committee, and we've just done Sochi. We're going to Glasgow. Just to highlight that we're going to, and this relates to swimming in part. We have a team going to Nanjing for the Youth Olympics in August, and that'll include one swimmer, and that is an age range thing, so that we only have one swimmer in the right age. But interestingly enough, one of our sailors, Josh Morrell, qualified for the sailing over the weekend, which is absolutely fantastic, because to have a qualified Olympian, even a youth Olympian from a country in which sailing is one of the biggest sports here is remarkable, and obviously we'll have athletes going as well, so that's exciting. And then, as Ephraim mentioned, the CAC Games, which is in Mexico in November. When we went to Mayaguez 4 years ago, we took a pretty big team, and we'd anticipate taking quite a number of athletes to those regional games with opportunities to medal there.
I think if I could just ask you, Mr. Warren, how important do you see participation in these elite type events in terms of promoting what's going on back home for the BVI, and the way the sport locally is definitely booming and becoming a more important part of everyday life?
I must say, I thought I was going to get away from you. I was actually looking forward to Ephraim saying that this is the last question.
Is that a hit?
The games are important, certainly not just in the Virgin Islands, but indeed throughout the Commonwealth, and particularly in the Caribbean region, where we have shared values, culture, and enthusiasm for sports. And I see it also very helpful because, as Mr. O'Neill indicated, that you can use sports to solve a number of issues. And he mentioned the issue with New Zealand and South Africa. We know that was the apartheid era. And sports was used as one of those pressure points to get equality for all men. So certainly back here, even here in the Virgin Islands, of course, we are doing well. I congratulate very often the Athletics Association, all the other associations, for the work that they continue to do. Going out and competing internationally certainly helps us, builds our competitive spirit. It gives us a chance to evaluate ourselves, to see where we are and where we need to make improvements. You make a lot of connections. I saw a picture that Mr. Penn just showed me a while ago. I told him not to show it in public, where he made certain connections. So even with sports itself, you make connections that can help to further the country and even further sports, and assist in certainly helping us in the areas that we might be deficient, such as things like the Hertfordshire County relationship that we have now. So certainly it's a very good thing, and I fully endorse what is being done.
Any more questions? Well, but we'd like to thank you very much for coming, everyone here, the Honourable Minister, for your time, taking your time to come with us, and of course Mr. O'Neill for the brief history, and Mark for letting us, keeping us up to date on where we are and where we are going. And also you from the different ministries. I see Ms. Penn here from of course, with the minister. And I forgot to mention Mr. Hewlett, but he wears so many hats, I didn't know which one to tag on it. So thank you very much. We look forward to a very exciting Queen Baton relay. And I'm already in running shape. I'm a lot better shape than what I was in the last time. So hopefully I can run a little bit farther. Thank you very much.